Hello, witches and mystics and spiritual seekers of every variety, new age, pagan, eclectic, not really sure whereabouts on the spectrum you fall. If you are a hater and you are here to tell me that I'm going directly to hell, welcome to you too. Love, love and abundance to all. This is an episode of Tea and Tarot in which I will drink tea and I will talk about tarot, and this is a random wisdom episode, which basically means that I'm just going to draw some cards at random and we are going to partake of the wisdom of synchronicity. Synchronicity is a divine, meaningful randomness. And it's quite often what is occurring when you feel plugged into the majesty of the universe and you feel like it's really listening to you. That is synchronicity. What it is, what it means, whether it's just a phenomenon of consciousness or whether it means something bigger and more all-encompassing and overarching for us, we will quite frankly never know. But there's one thing that's undeniable, and that is that synchronicity feels really special. So I'm going to break out some decks, and I'm feeling a little bit adventurous and kind of different today, so I think I'm probably going to work from multiple different decks, and I'm just going to have a bit of a witter, a bit of a ramble, and the idea is that when you listen to what the cards have to say, when they're channeled through my particular consciousness, maybe there are certain lessons that you can take or certain different thought patterns that come into view. Maybe it helps you to shift your perspective on something that's going on in your life, or maybe you just want to trip out while you look at this top. It's completely up to you how deep you want to go. Ooh, that green teddy bear ring was pinching me somewhat, so I took it off. They're very, very old, these rings. I got them at a boot sale like 15 years ago, and I just love them, but I think that bear one has had its time. It's got a bit of a crack in it. Oh no, that's tragic. He really broke. The Buddha said decay is inherent in all component things. It's the first lesson, and we haven't even drawn a card yet. I'm burning Thousand Flowers incense today. It's really bloody gorgeous. I've also been burning Sandal Rose, both from Flute Incense. And the tea for today is ginger orange with vanilla. It's just gorgeous. I'm not going to take a sip of any yet because it's incredibly hot. But the little message from Yogi Tea is, one good word has warmth for the winter. Which I suppose is a way of saying your words hold vibration and intention and energy, and if you put a good word out into a situation or towards a person or into the universe, then the warmth that that word can carry is enough to melt snow. Okay, so I've selected some decks at random that I would quite like to work with and that kind of call to me for today. The first one that we're going to draw a card from is the Psychic Tarot Oracle deck by John Holland, so let's have a shuffle and see what we can see. Disruption. This card makes me think about that really sacred kind of Taoistic philosophy of being like the water and flowing into the space available, changing shape and being adaptable and flexible depending upon what's required of you or depending upon the situation, and actually just basically not being rigid, learning how to move freely, how to adopt beginner's mind, how to bring your whole self to something instead of holding on rigidly to your philosophy or your belief or your fear even. And with the illustration in Disruption, I really feel like this guy is just so rigid, he's so tightly wound, he's so tightly bound up in what it is that he's trying to do or what he thinks or who he's trying to be, that actually when outside influences come along that he feels kind of perturbed by or disturbed by, as it were, then they start to really shake him up, they start to break his world apart. He can't deal with it, he doesn't have that cognitive flexibility to realise that, you know, he's still strong in the earth, he's still who he is, everything's okay, nobody died. You know, I feel like that flexibility is really what's required when we look at this card. I remember once a boyfriend said to me, you're micromanaging, you like control. And it really spoke to a part of my shadow that I had not wanted to consciously get to grips with at that point in my life. I thought of myself as a really freewheeling, hippie, very liberal kind of woman who would go with the flow, and actually that perception of myself from ego wasn't who I was, and I kind of needed him to bring that to my attention. Actually, I was very micromanaging. I did kind of get stuck in my version of what things should be like, and I was particularly idealistic with plans. If we would make plans, or if any plans were kind of coming into my life, or we were kind of crystallizing a vision of something we were going to do on holiday, something that we were going to do at the weekend, something that I was going to do artistically, if outside energies and outside influences seemed to conspire to pull me away from that perfect vision of what I wanted, I was angry. You know, I was pissed off about that. I was really tightly wound about that. And I would snap and I would go into myself and I would kind of throw in the towel and think, well, forget it then. If it's not going to look how I want it to look, then just forget it. And actually, when he brought that home to me, that I was micromanaging and I was controlling, that was kind of what I needed. That was the realization, the wake-up call that I needed to understand that actually being free-flowing and being able to adapt and being able to be like water is not just about something that you envision yourself as being in your mind. It's something that you prove through your actions. It's something that you can explore through your thoughts. I think that this guy is micromanaging, and I think that when things come along that disrupt him from what he wants to do or what he thinks his very rigid idea that he has in mind, then he really resents it and he does take it as an affront to him. But actually that's just, you know, the nature of co-creation. You have an idea and the universe does its thing while you try and do your thing, and sometimes there's that sense of alignment and resonance and things moving smoothly, and other times there is disruption and there is kind of unexpected change. There are obstacles that you didn't foresee. But it's nothing personally against you, you know. It's not like the universe has a chip on its shoulder and is kind of directing its anger at you. It's just one of those things. It's the ebb and flow of life, and sometimes things will be more smooth sailing than at other times. I think really what it requires is to understand where you are being rigid in your approach. Where is it that you could be more expansive? Where is it that you could look outside of the box or step outside of your ego? Decide that there are a myriad of possibilities, not just the one that you want to pursue, not just the one that you want to bring into fruition. I think really this guy is just forgetting that his desire, his way of seeing things, his perspective, his aim is only one of a myriad of different possibilities and aims, and that actually there are pros and cons for each, and there are beautiful parts to each. And if he would just relax, if he would just let up on his perfect vision of what he wants, then he would see that every single change, every single obstacle, every single challenge, every single unexpected thing that happens is really a blessing. It's a gift, it's an opportunity to learn, and it could open very many more doors than it actually shuts in the end. So I think really, where are you being rigid? Where are you being rigid? And I'm actually feeling that question in my own body. I'm really going there for myself in my own life. You know, where am I feeling that tension or that sense of wanting to control something, you know, to the detriment of every other possibility? Where am I feeling resentful that something is going on that's beyond my control? Where am I trying to grasp on too tightly, where if I would just let go and be like water, then I could be the best version of myself without a shadow of a doubt? It's actually me holding me back. And so I really welcome you to question that in your own life. Like, where's the rigidity and how can you shake it out? How can you just allow yourself to shake it out that little bit more? This is the first time that I'm showing you guys the Vintage Wisdom Oracle by Victoria Moseley. I love it. This is absolutely, and if you follow me on Instagram, then you'll know already that I'm playing with this deck all the time now. I'm really exploring the possibilities with this deck, and I'm writing definitions, and it's just so exciting. It's such a wonderful journey for me because this is so me. This deck is so me, and actually people on Instagram and on Facebook have actually said that, and I quite agree. So I'm going to shuffle and select a card from this deck. I will leave the link below to where you can pick up a copy of this deck. I will be doing a review on this deck as well as Shaman's Oracle and a couple of others fairly soon. I'll be doing a much more in-depth look at the Revelations Tarot, so you know, look out for my deck reviews. I'm really going to make a special effort this year to do more deck reviews, and Vintage Wisdom Oracle will certainly be among them. So let's shuffle and see what kind of vintage wisdom is in store for us today. Patience. So strange. I was just talking to a client yesterday about patience, and we were really going to some deep places with that exploration of what it really means to be patient, and how much it's about being good to yourself, how much it's about realising how impatience actually lowers your vibration. It stresses you out, you know, it brings pain to your door. It creates unnecessary tension in the body, unnecessary insecurity, analysis paralysis, overcooking it, worrying, when's it going to happen? I want the time to be now. Why isn't the time now? Is it to do with me? Is there something I can change? Some variable? I don't want to be here, I want to be there, you know, that real feeling of you know, you tell yourself it's desire, but it's not. It's the toxic, it's the flip side of desire, it's the shadow side of desire, where you forget to be where you are in this moment and worship and witness and honour the present moment. And one thing that we were talking about, and that I've talked about with clients on and off through the years, and it's been this really recurring theme: the past and the present and the future, think of them as like set points in time. So the past and the future are these abstract points in time, and they're real places. They have a real effect on us. They really are part of the dynamic of our cognitive function, of our planning, of our sense of who we are and stuff, our sense of our lives and the fabric of our lives, the intricate tapestries of our lives. But they are abstract. They're not places where things can actually occur. They're not places where you can stand your ground, make your mark, put your foot down, explore anything, express anything in the sense of what you can do in this moment in time. Where your power is in the present. The present is the most powerful part of the equation. So I think that they work as a trinity. They work as a trilogy. They are all important, past, present and future. They are that perfect triad. But the present is where your power is. The present is where your power lives. You know, your power to make changes, your power to release the past is harboured in the present. Your power to plan for the future, your power to embrace the future without fear and actually with curiosity, that is rooted in the present. Everything that you can do that's related to the past or the future is now, you know, and now is the time of your ultimate empowerment. Not then, you know, not over there, now. And so patience is really about reining in, I think, that desire for the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, and when are we going to get there? When is it going to happen? When am I going to fulfill my potential? When am I going to unlock the answer? Patience is really about bringing it back to the present moment, because your power is in the present moment. So it's about, okay, what action can I take right now? And how might that change my vibration? How might that change how I feel about things? How might that help me to be more empowered and more positive and more confident and more self-loving? The image here in this card is of a girl, and she's counting. She's that real angelic kind of presence. She's got the wings and stuff. She's counting, so it's basically very reminiscent of when you would play hide and seek as a kid, and everybody would go off and hide in their different areas of the house, and you would be the person counting, and you have to count to like 100. And there was that sense of patience, because you wanted to start the game and you wanted to succeed and you wanted to explore and you wanted to, you know, all of that excitement, all of that wonderful stuff. And so the counting becomes tedious, and you've always got that rule, like, oh, you've got to count properly, you've got to say 1, elephant 2, elephant 3, you know, don't speed up, you've got to count properly. And actually, I think a lot of our relationship with patience and impatience, not to use too much of a ham-fisted analogy to come in there with that, but a lot of our response to what it means to be patient and the value of patience as a virtue is tied up in what we learn from childhood, what we learn from our parental templates, you know, our guiding forces, the adults, and how we saw them deal with their sense of patience and impatience. And sometimes if you just got a really impatient parent, a parent that really pushed you to get the answer, a parent that didn't have the time for you, then sometimes that can really skew your perception of what patience and impatience can mean and what they can do for you. You know, there are quite a lot of different experiences that you can probably look back on that you will realise have shaped your relationship with your own sense of impatience, your own sense of not wanting to wait, and your own inability or ability to be in the present moment and really make that into your sacred starting point every day, the present moment, you know. I also want to talk about time awareness perspective really briefly. Time awareness perspective is just what I call it. There are many different names for it, but I feel like each individual person needs to get their own individual sense of how much time they want to spend thinking about the past, analysing the past and hashing it out. How much time they want to spend planning for the future, goal setting for the future, visualising and crystallising their intentions for the future, and then finally how much time they want to spend being mindful, showing up in the present and bringing things back to mindfulness. And I really feel, as a spiritual counsellor myself, that there is no firm formula. There is no one-size-fits-all equation. Everybody needs to find their own sense of what works for them. And maybe this card is really asking us all to think about our own sense of time awareness perspective. How much time do you spend psyche diving, analysing the past, taking a look at the lessons you can learn from the past, or maybe even just getting sucked into mourning or regret regarding the past? How much time are you spending crystallizing your future intention, really thinking about where you want to get to and the steps to get to that place? Do you think that your relationship with the past or your relationship with the future are actually unhealthy? Are you spending too much time in either of those two places? And do you really need to come back to the present moment? So I think that's really something the card would ask us to consider. You know that you want me to review these cards. They are so beautiful. I'm definitely going to do a tea and tarot with them, even though they're not strictly tarot. But you guys know I like to break out the oracle stuff sometimes. I like that oracle magic too. That's a damn fine cup of tea. Actually, the last episode of Tea and Tarot, when I had a cup of coffee, I really wish that I had done a Twin Peaks on you guys and just been like, now that, excuse me, is a damn fine cup of coffee. If you like Twin Peaks and you just smiled when I said that, then I probably love you a bit more than I did before. I've just realised that I don't really actually have a lot of time left. I've only got 8 minutes, my camera informs me. So let's just get straight onto the final deck that I'll choose. I'll go with Lover's Tarot, just so that it's not completely oracle based for this episode. I know there's a lot of oracle action happening, so I will give you tarot enthusiasts and those who prefer tarot a little bit of a dose of a classic tarot deck. Four of Swords. Are we really being called to talk about patience today and think about patience and our response to what it is that we want and how we desire and being in the present moment? Because the Four of Swords is so much about that for me, quite a lot. It's really about patience and having the wisdom to recognise that it's important to trust the process and that everything will not always go at the speed at which the ego wants, but it will actually more often than not go at the speed at which the spirit needs. And so there is kind of that dichotomy, and sometimes it's just a case of shifting our thinking so that we can see how valuable those slow times are, how valuable that kind of hanged man vibe is, you know, where you feel like you're really not moving to the extent that you want to be moving. But it's almost like if you shift your perception of what's necessary, shift your perception of the lessons that can be learned in those times of inaction, then I think that's a really important thing, and it's something that the Four of Swords often calls me to think about. The other thing that it calls me to think about is my sense of composure, my sense of what I'm bringing to the table in the situation. When you're impatient for something to happen, or when you're really kind of stuck in your own idea of what something should be or what something looks like, then you forget very much about the way that you're acting, the energy that you're bringing into your relationships, the energy that you're taking into the workplace, what you're taking into the world with you. I think a lot of the people that watch my channel and have dialogues with me would consider themselves to be healers or light workers or agents of change, you know, and I think we are all that to an extent. I think everybody is a teacher. I don't think there's anything wrong or anything egocentric about the word teacher. I think the word teacher is necessary and we need to adopt it much more. And when we go out into the world, I think a lot of people who would consider themselves to be living consciously or spiritually centered, however you want to put it, we walk out into the world with our sense of ourselves as light workers, with our sense of ourselves as people who are more aware maybe of the energies that are around and how we contribute to either raising those energies or lowering them, how we contribute to the way people feel about themselves and each other, how we can empower people, how we can spur people to action in their own lives, you know. I think that a lot of people who are conscious of what they bring to the equation can actually, you know, have those moments where they check in with themselves and think, well, you know, I could kind of get angry with somebody for not having any motivation, for example. I could add to their sense of stress and their sense of not having a direction. Or I could recognise that person doesn't really have any motivation. That person's feeling really kind of lazy and insular right now. So maybe I go in there and I act as the cheerleader. Maybe I wear that archetype. Maybe I wear that guise and I put them in touch with something bigger and stronger about themselves. It's really about that decision. And I think the Four of Swords, because there's so much stillness, there's so much composure, there's so much statuesque presence in the energy of the Four. I think sometimes the Four is just asking you, what's your composure, what's your energy, what are you bringing into the room with you, what are you bringing to the table with you? And so that's something that I want to end on. The Suit of Swords is the suit of thought and the suit of belief, the suit of perspective. I said to a client the other day that the Suit of Pentacles is about how things are, and the Suit of Swords is about how we see the things as they are. And Jung said, you know, it's really not about how things are, it's about how we think they are, it's about how we see them. And this is something that philosophy and psychology and spirituality has explored through the aeons, you know. When you look at your perspective on something and what you feel about something. You'll notice quite often that falls in with how you act. So when you shift your thoughts, when you consciously shift your perception, then the way you act falls into alignment with that. For example, when you drop judgment, you start acting in a nicer way, a better way, a way that is more conscious, a way that is more aligned with who you feel you are in your soul. I wish I could stay here with you guys and talk all day. I honestly do. I absolutely just love being with you. I know that sounds strange because it's video, but I know those of you who make videos or write blogs or anything like that, I'm sure you know what I mean. But I must go. There are things to do, places to be, people to see, but very, very much love and blessed be. By the way, this throw is amazing. I got it from a wicked shop based in India on Etsy. Very reasonable prices. Obviously the shipping is a little, because it's from India, but the prices for the tapestries, for what they are and how big they are and how beautiful they are, were amazing. So I'll leave the link below as well if you've been looking at this new throw and thinking, I fancy having a look at some of them, then I'll leave the Etsy link below because it's really, really good and it was delivered really fast and I'm really, really happy with it. So this isn't an ad, it's just a tip from one spiritual hippie type to another.